I am finally a permanent resident of Canada. I can't believe it's real. It's been a really long while since I set my eyes on becoming a PR here in Canada, and it's been a long journey. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit more of how I got the idea of coming here to Canada, what's my background, my story, and how I managed to become APR. So you might or might not know that my dad is Serbian and my mom is Italian, and I grew up in Italy. In Italy, honestly, the economy is not doing well, and there have been a lot of problems with corruption and politics and the government. I didn't have the luck of being born in a middle class family. Everything always seemed so strange to me in Italy because I'm an introvert and I was very shy in high school, and it was just too weird. Italy is kind of a collectivist country where the opinion of your peers and the opinion of not just your peers but especially the people who are older than you, it's very, very important. And it just feels like Italy is a part of the West that has been stuck in the past for 30 years or more. When I was 12, I realized that most of the media I was exposed to came from this place called the United States, and I realized, wow, the world is not just what's around me, there's actually a lot more. And I really realized what country meant and what a culture is. I always wished I could move to the US, but moving to the US is extremely hard, and I needed to do something practical. When I turned 18, I found a remote job opportunity on Reddit. I'm not even kidding. For some guy who just invested like millions of dollars in creating an educational video games company for kids in schools in the US. So I managed to earn my first money, which was $3,000 USD for about 3 months of work, which for an 18-year-old guy who is in his final year of high school is really amazing. It was just like a couple of months before graduation from high school when I decided I'd use that money to go to New York, make one of my biggest dreams come true. That's what I did. I went to New York just by myself. I was 18. The border officer looked at me like something was off. He asked me like, where are my parents? Am I here alone? Like, how much money do I have with me? But yeah, there I had about like 400 euros on my debit card with me, and I was literally overwhelmed by New York City. I knew that that's the kind of lifestyle that I'm striving for. I want to live in a big city. I want to live in a place where people do things, where people take action, where people are trying to innovate, and where technology is something that's welcomed. Once I came back, I swear, positively traumatized. I know traumatized is not a word that you use for positive things, but the impression that that experience left on me was so extraordinary that I couldn't think of anything else than New York City. As soon as I was done with school, I decided I would look for a remote job and I would just move to the US, just like that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I looked for a job in English as a front-end developer. I did attend a few online interviews on Skype, but the guys that interviewed me knew pretty quickly that I was just out of school and they wouldn't hire remotely someone who did not have experience. So after a month, I was getting a little bit depressed. That was my first experience, like my first time looking for a job. Yeah, looking for a job is hard, whether it is remote or not. And it's really an experience that I personally find depressing. But I had to stay strong and I had to keep my goal in my mind and don't lose focus of it. I stumbled upon a website where I could look for web development jobs in Europe, anywhere in Europe. And with a little bit of luck and skills, I was able to get a job in Germany. They told me, yeah, you can come here for 2 weeks. Those are gonna be your trial weeks and they're gonna be paid for, and we're gonna take it from there. So I went there and it was really hard, it was really stressful, but in the end I persevered and I was hired permanently. My life in Germany is something that it's better to tell you in another video, but basically at some point after working there for like about 6 months, I realized that even though I had upgraded my life tenfold and I had my own job, I had my own salary and lived in an apartment that was shared with my coworkers, it was still a very stressful life. The job was very demanding, especially for someone who's new and who had no experience working in an office. After saving some money, I realized that's my chance to finally do it. I'm gonna go to the US. Unfortunately, I couldn't. Again, visa stuff. Like immigrating to the US is very complicated, and that's also something that I can tell you more about in another video. But basically, if you don't have a bachelor's degree, you're not welcome. And I don't have a bachelor's degree because many reasons. It's just that for me personally at that time when I graduated from high school, it was not a good step to take for me. Since I had already studied a lot, web development and game development even, so I just decided to go for it and get a job. I decided I'm gonna take a look at other countries where the main language is English and where the culture is kind of similar to the US. I excluded the UK immediately, even though it was the simplest country for me to immigrate to because of the EU citizenship, but I excluded it because I really don't think the UK is cut out for me. Then I took a look at Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. I honestly love hot weather, and Australia looked really attractive for that reason. But I thought about it, and after some research, I realized Canada is the neighbor of the US, and the lifestyle and culture of Canada is really close to that of the United States. Plus, the biggest city in Canada, Toronto, is actually really close to New York. So that's kind of like getting two birds with one stone. I decided I'm gonna try and I'm gonna go to Canada. I found there's a visa that is really easy to get and that allows you to work anywhere in Canada, and that's the working holiday visa. I applied for that. It was actually not that hard, and in a couple of months I had my document that allowed me to enter Canada with an open work permit. In January 2019, I finally took a flight and landed here in Toronto. I still remember that night. It was January 31st. It was minus 13 degrees. There was a blizzard. It was cold as fuck. But that was my welcome to Canada. I just got to my Airbnb, which was a room in a detached house. And in the coming days, I immediately started to look around, understand like what the life here looks like. And I remember the first day I got up and I went to buy groceries because I didn't have anything to eat. And I literally teared up when I entered the supermarket, and it hit me. I was in Canada. I made it to North America. And that was incredible. That was absolutely incredible, especially when I think back to the 12 years old Luca that had a dream and very little means to get there. But then the dream was finally coming to life. I took on a job as an Uber Eats courier. I would bike 3 hours a day to deliver food. People usually didn't tip at all back then. In the end, I had very little money left, about maybe 1,500 Canadian dollars. That's about 1,000 USD. But I was still doing fine, and I was not afraid at all, because I have lived with much less than that with my family. After many attempts, many interviews, I finally did it. I was offered a job at a company in Toronto's financial district. That was crazy. It was really hard to get there, but again, with perseverance, I was able to do that. It was June 2019. Life became so beautiful. It's unbelievable. It's like stuff of dreams. I was living with two guys in a house in Chinatown, and we would always go out after work, exploring the city, trying new food. And I had visited New York again by myself and also with my two friends that lived with me. It was just amazing. And then as things went on, it was January 2020. Something was wrong. There were news of this new virus that was like spreading around, and there were 2 cases in the Toronto area. And everyone felt weird. It was like, what's this? And I was honestly kind of scared. Like, should I always carry like a hand sanitizer with me? What should I do? And so on and so on. And then, you know what happened next? We had a lockdown, and honestly, one of the worst times in my life started back then. The pandemic has hit me really hard. I had just gotten a young professional visa in February 2020 after I kind of negotiated with the head of HR at the company where I worked at, because she didn't want to help me at all, and I had to pay all the visa fees by myself, even though the company is supposed to pay them. But in the end, I got that visa, and it would last till September 2020 when my contract expired. I was working on a contract and I was offered a permanent position just before a huge hiring freeze caused by the pandemic. And yeah, that was the timing. I'm not even kidding. Just a couple of days after I was offered that position, and they basically HR didn't finalize the papers yet, so they didn't actually show me the papers. But there was a hiring freeze and everything, shit hit the fan. From then, I asked my manager, I asked the upper manager, I asked the head of HR, can you do something to keep me here? My life is here. I've lived here for more than a year. And so I had lived in Canada since I was 20. And I was really accustomed to the life here. But again, nobody cared. It really looked like everyone went into survival mode, everyone for themselves, and just like, fuck you. Like,
I want to keep my job, I want money, I don't want to be one of those people who are homeless on the streets because of COVID.
That's what happened. Nobody gave a shit. And I was in a bad position. In the end, I realized there was nothing I could do, and I had to leave Canada. So that's what I did. in September 2020, and from then it was pure chaos. I was in Italy, I didn't want to be in Italy, I wanted a job like the one I had before, I wanted to speak English, and I decided I would go to England, and I did, and it was a really sudden move. I thought that's gonna help me. I had no idea when I would get the opportunity to go back to Canada again, because only permanent residents and people with a valid work permit or study permit could enter Canada at that time. And it was like that for more than a year. So I started a new life in London, England. It might sound very fancy, but honestly, it wasn't. I was using a big chunk of my savings, and I was looking for a job, and I was there alone by myself. It was really hard to get to know new people because, again, pandemic. I was able to get a job. It was February 2021. And in that same month, one day, it was just a regular Sunday, February 14th, 2021, I woke up, I opened my email, and I saw I was invited to apply for a permanent residency in Canada. And that's under the Canadian Experience class, under the Express Entry program. I was so happy. I swear, I was crying of happiness. I was dancing like SpongeBob. Yeah, that was an amazing feeling. Unfortunately, my application was cancelled because of a very small mistake in one of my police clearance certificates. But I applied again. I entered the Express Entry pool again, and I was luckily able to get another invite. And I was invited to apply again, and I applied, and this time it was good. I applied in June 2021, and I started waiting, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And when the pandemic situation got a little bit lighter in the fall of last year, I decided I would go to Canada and wait for my permanent residence there. And finally, my application was approved in February, and I became a permanent resident of Canada on March 2nd. That's crazy. I'm really happy because I can finally call Toronto my home. I can finally call Canada my home. If you have any questions about the story, about why I left Italy, about why I didn't like Italy, about why I didn't like the UK, just comment down below and I'll reply, and I might make a video about all those things. I'm sure there are more great things to come in the future. And now that we are over this pandemic, even though the morale in the world is still low, I'm gonna keep moving forward. I've definitely developed a resistance to bad news and bad world events after the pandemic. So guys, thank you for watching this video, especially if you've watched all of it, because I realized it's a really long video. Share it with your friends if you think anyone would like to know about this story. I'm really humbled every time someone subscribes, every time someone leaves a comment or likes my videos. That gives me energy. So I want to thank you all for being here, and I'll see you next time.